2014 at approximately 9:30 a.m. I'm Minnie Ann Lane, your commission chairman. Member has reception to approve these minutes as they are presented.
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Rich. Second by Commissioner Horton. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I believe next on our agenda now we have the legal report, and I'll turn this item over to Josh Kilgore, our Assistant General Counsel.
Thank you. This is the legal report of August 15th, 2014. The first case on here is 2014-008451. Complaint was established when it was alleged respondent engaged in private investigator activities without first being duly licensed with the Commission. Complainant states that she called and started inquiring about the habits, whereabouts, and/or past conduct of individuals. Respondent states that she was merely trying to verify rental information from the current landlord, who is the complainant here. Respondent attached the form as evidence that she was using to verify renter information, and there is no evidence to indicate that she was doing anything outside the scope of what is normally done by realtors and renters in the business of verifying current rental information for purposes of determining qualifications for a new lease. Therefore, my recommendation is to dismiss.
Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to dismiss it.
Motion by Commissioner Horton to follow the recommendation of council to dismiss. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Rich. All in favor?
Aye.
Is there any discussion on this?
I'm also a real estate appraiser, and I very often contact people for rent information. So I think it's just a normal way that people do business.
Had a motion and a second. We had discussion. Had all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Let me, excuse me for interrupting, Madam Chair, but everyone, pull your mics down so we can hear you. Make sure so we can get your votes.
It'll save us for having a roll call vote.
Second matter is case number 2014-007861 and 2. Complaint was received alleging that respondent PI and his PI company accepted $1,000 to conduct an interview and provide reports and recording of interview to the complainant. Complainant states that no report was ever furnished by respondent, and that respondent is now ignoring his phone calls after receiving several attempts to contact him. It should be noted that this respondent's license has already been revoked for similar violation involving $500, and there is no license to discipline at this time. Therefore, my recommendation is that we close and flag this matter.
Is there a motion?
So move.
Motion by Commissioner Valentine. Is there a second?
I'll second it. Larry Flair.
A second by Commissioner Flair. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Third matter is case number 2014-010841 and 2. Complaint was received alleging that respondent PI and his company were engaging in the training of private investigators without the benefit of a certified trainer license through the Commission. The only independent information able to be obtained that shows any indication respondent was training individuals for a fee was on his website, where he stated that he had, quote, trained a number of men and women to become private investigators, and that the investigative course is a 3 to 6 month program, and that you will be trained in all areas you need to receive your investigation license. And under this is a link that states pay now with various major credit card logos underneath. However, clicking the pay now is redirected and states that the user's PayPal account is not active. This tends to give the impression respondent is offering training for a fee without certification. However, respondent insists he only charges individuals for being affiliated with his company during their apprenticeship. It should be noted that this respondent company and PI has previously paid a $750 civil penalty in 2009, and the individual PI paid a civil penalty in the amount of $500 for that same violation in 2009. The violation of training without a certified trainer license. Respondent also states on his website that he provides bodyguard services and CCTV camera systems for home surveillance. This activity would constitute violations under the Private Protective Services and Alarm Act statutes. The only exclusion under the Alarm Act to selling CCTVs to customers as it relates to PIs is when it was installed for purposes of an investigation, and at the end of the investigation, the customer wants to keep the system. It's not an exemption to offer CCTV systems for sale separate and apart from an investigation. And under Rule 1175-04-.065A, misconduct, misrepresentation of qualifications and identity, it states that a licensee shall not falsify or permit misrepresentation of his or her professional qualifications. Further, it states that brochures or other presentations incident to solicitation of employment shall not misrepresent pertinent facts concerning employer, employees, and associates for the purpose of enhancing his or her qualifications. Here, respondent states that he provides bodyguard work and home security systems, both of which require licensure in Tennessee, licenses which respondent does not have. Respondent did have an unarmed guard license through the PPS program, which expired in 1996, and respondent holds no alarm license. Rules also state that the licensee shall take into account all applicable laws and regulations, and that the licensee shall not knowingly provide services resulting in violation of such laws and regulations. Here, respondent PI has previously held unarmed guard registration, putting him on notice that such registration is required prior to acting or holding oneself out as a security guard, bodyguard services included, and respondent company does not hold a valid security company license or alarm systems contractor's license. Therefore, my recommendation is authorize formal and send a consent order with a civil penalty in the amount of $800 to each respondent, which would be the company and the PI in this case, for improperly representing himself and the company on his website as being duly licensed to provide training, bodyguard, and home security systems in violations of Rule 1175.04.03 subsection 3 and 1175.04-.065A.
Is there a motion?
So move. Accept the recommendation of council.
A motion by Commissioner Rousseau. Is there a second?
Second.
That was by Commissioner Brown. Any discussion?
Yes, I have a question for council. Can we request him to cease and desist his website claims?
I believe upon him accepting the consent order, should he accept it, there's language in there that contains cease and desist language. That's standard on all of our consent orders that we send out. Apart from that, I don't think that we can simply state he must cease and desist. He has to agree to the consent order. I mean, at this point, they're merely allegations. I mean, yes, it's contained on the website, but he could choose to go to a formal hearing if he doesn't accept the consent order.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I have a question. On the 800, is that 800 to the company and then 800 more to the individual in as the motion stands?
Yes, sir.
1,600 total?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion?
Is he, with this alarm, is he subject to discipline by the other boards also?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And he is a licensed PI now?
Yes, sir.
And he
He's a
has
licensed PI, and he's also the owner and qualifying agent for the PI company.
This is his second time before the...
Well, this is the first violation for these matters, but this is the second time that he has been in front of the commission. The first time was for training for a fee without a certified trainer's license, which he's still stating, you know, that language on his website, which tends to indicate to me anyway, just looking at it, that he's attempting to offer for a fee when it says, I've trained PIs, many PIs over the years, and then it goes on to say he'll train you and everything you need to get your PI license, and then it has a link directly below that says pay now. Now, whether or not he's actually accepted money for those services, I'm not sure. He states that he only accepts money to be affiliated with his company, but the language is still there nonetheless, and it's still misrepresenting himself, I believe.
Other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Case number 2014-018-251 and 2. Complaint was established when it was discovered that respondent, private investigator, had been working as an investigator without company affiliation since his company expired in July of 2012. Respondent states that he engaged only in work that he obtained by subcontracting to one other properly licensed company, and then he felt his company license was, quote, redundant, so he let it expire. Respondent has made new application to obtain his company license, and he has renewed his individual PI license. My recommendation is authorize formal and send a consent order with a civil penalty in the amount of $500 to respondent PI for operating as a private investigator without a valid company affiliation for a period of approximately 2 years.
Is there a motion?
I move to accept recommendation.
Motion by Commissioner Russo. Do we have a second?
I'll second. Rick Jones.
Thank you. Second by Commissioner Jones. Any discussion?
Yes. Did we contact the person or company that he said he subcontracted to?
I don't believe that we had, but he said that it was only this one company and it appeared to be legitimate.
But that company does not list him as a PI under their license.
Like to establish a complaint against that company for utilizing a PI that they don't have affiliated.
No, I was just questioning whether they listed him as one of their licensees under their PI company license.
Oh, well, yeah, the complaint would not have been initiated if he was affiliated with this other company. That's how we initially caught it, was because we realized he was renewing his individual license, but he did not have, right, he wasn't affiliated.
Okay.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
That concludes my part, but Counsel Robin Ryan is going to represent one matter that was before you previously.
This matter is actually in the litigation process. That is, after a certain amount of time, when a party does not pay, it gets sent to litigation. In this case, it was a 2013-023871 matter. The allegations were this company, not a Tennessee company, was doing services here because they're doing background checks. Having said that, they were doing background checks for the divisions of the state of Tennessee, who had approved their doing the background checks. Nonetheless, it was unlicensed practice in the state of Tennessee, and by their own admission, they had been doing it for a number of years. So the offer was for a $5,000 civil penalty, and initially the company was not going to agree to that, mainly because of the circumstances I just suggested. But they have since agreed to it and have signed an agreed order. That civil penalty will be paid after the order is signed by you and me, if you all accept this consent order. And so I'm asking you today if you will accept that, and if so, I'd like to approach the chairperson to get her signature.
Do I have a motion?
I so move. that the
Motion by
board-
Commissioner Russo, a second by
I'll second
Commissioner
it.
Flair. Any discussion? Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carried.
Pardon me, I was wrong. He corrected me on that. We did reduce it to 2,500 as opposed to 5,000. So, pardon me. And the reason we reduced it to 2,500 was that we did take in consideration, I'm sorry, I looked at the old legal report. And I discussed this with the department. We took it based on the fact that, yes, indeed, they have been doing business for divisions of the state of Tennessee, and actually asked them before they did it. And ignorance of the law is no excuse nonetheless. There we are. And they are not doing it anymore and have ceased to do it. And frankly, upon being told of all of this, they told all their connections they cannot do it any longer. So it is 2,500 as opposed to 5,000. Please forgive me.
Let's go ahead and do a motion since she's changed that.
Sorry.
Motion by Commissioner Russo. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Flair. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries.
My apologies. May I approach?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
On the agenda, I believe we have administrative matters next on the agenda. And I'll request that our Executive Director, Cody Vest, present these items.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My first exhibit is Exhibit B, disciplinary action reports. You have with May, June, and July. You can look these over at your leisure, but I will explain on May, you had no disciplinary action at all, but it does on these reports show the other programs that we work with. In June, you did have disciplinary action of a total of $250, and you did have revocation of a license. Information is obtainable out on the internet as well. And on July, we did not have any disciplinary action. I wanted to take just a second and go back to the June where you had the revocation. It's a little bit longer report. You will notice on this report, not that the Private Investigation and Polygraph Commission has anyone, but other programs do. We now do list, and you will see a list, rather large list, of individuals who either are taxed on their student loans or child support. We now get a list in the springtime, and I get one in the wintertime. I get them all during the year, but these large lists will come in, and we'll take a look at them. We put these people in suspended status until they get current, either with the child support or with their student loans. Like I say, you don't have any, but you can see there's a rather large list for some of the other programs. Excuse me. If we don't have any questions there, we'll just move on to the next one, which is the open complaint report. And it says you have 5, and you've just heard 5. So this is the first time that I know of the Private Investigative Polygraph Commission has had 0 complaints. Well, we're very proud of that, all the work that you have been able to do with us, and then our staff attorney and the attorney for him as well to get these under control. Very good. We're very appreciative of that. Okay, we can go to Exhibit D. The monthly reports, you sent this out to them, didn't you? And this is a report that you get every month. pardon me, before every meeting, excuse me, for the monthly reports, Exhibit D. You have May. You go over to your section. There wasn't any issues during the month. We said no. We didn't have any issues. There are how many applicants you've taken in, how many we've approved. You have your June report. Pardon me. We do have, no, we don't have any more vacancies on any of our board or commission. All of the positions have been filled for all our programs. So let me hang on a second here. There's my alarms and private investigation, no issues that month either. So I'm gonna take it we didn't have any issues in July either. If we did, you would already know about those issues. No, that's locksmith. You're not interested. There we go. So that will finish that report unless you have any questions there.
I have a question. I know on one of them, it's got language with clock stop in action. What does that mean?
Clock stopping action generally is when the consent order is proposed. We have different statuses to track our complaints, and it can be from staff response requested from their side, which is when we generally send it out and give the complainant or respondent 30 days to respond. And then it goes into legal received by staff, which is when I first get the complaint in my office, and we open a case on legal side, and then I either make a determination to send it out for investigation, or I just get it on the legal report as quickly as possible for the next meeting.
It's just in-house language between
and
the
right,
staff.
and the clock stopping action is generally the first one that triggers clock stopping is consent order proposed. So we always try to get those in under 180 days is our goal. So that's my goal, is trying to get all complaints presented to the commission or the board or the commissioner, depending on which program it is, before 180 days. So the clock stopping action would be the consent order the day that it's decided to issue the consent order.
Has changing the commission meetings to 3 months hampered that process in any way internally?
Not with this program, I don't think, because generally, I mean, we don't have as many complaints in this program, and I've gotten all the ones that I've received to this date that are already, I mean, they were in my office and now they've been presented, so all these today have clock stopping action.
0, we're good then.
Right.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'll clarify that just a little bit, what Josh said. Josh and I meet on a monthly basis. Well, we practically meet every day because he's the attorney for all the programs. But we're required to meet with our attorneys at least once a month to go over your complaints or whatever issues there are with your programs. Then we have quarterly meetings that he and I will attend with with administration. And if we have any complaints at over 180 days, and then that's when we have to start doing the explain. Try to get them out as quickly as possible. With your program, there's no problem because you have literally none now. If we did see that there was going to be a problem, we weren't going to be able to meet our deadlines, or there's something we need to address, we would call a meeting, an additional meeting. That has not been an issue with this program, but that is something that as administration looks at, judges us for our complaints at 180 days. Right, if we don't have any other questions, we'll go to Exhibit E. This is the examination statistics. If you see it, it's from January the 1st of 14 to July, 6 months. With the polygraph, you only had 2 people and they passed. First time. Private investigation company, you had a total of 32 people take this exam, 15 passed the first time. Then you have your first time fails was 8, then you have your repeats, so they got their license there. Private investigators, you had 125 for this 6 months period. 55 of them passed the first time, 40 of them failed the first time. Then you have your repeats. I believe Beth and I had talked about trying to work with PSI on this. To see, do the item review to see if this exam maybe is not strong enough, or perhaps it may be too strong, or are we asking the right questions? It's a review of the exam. It is built into the contract. We don't have any particular date set up for that yet. We will let you know that. We were talking about perhaps myself, Beth, and the attorney, and one commission member for this rewrite to look at the exam. If I do more than one commission member, it has to be a public meeting. Well, I have a little problem with that. Why would we want the public to know what the exam is? I mean, so you have to, I'm trying to weigh that between it. But we'll talk about that later on when I get closer into having the rewrite. I just want to know if you would consider any association representatives instead of in conjunction with one of our board members, or do you just to be the 3 of us and a board member? Anybody got any suggestions on that? I'd like to throw that out and let you make a suggestion.
Opinion, it should be
experts.
a board member, not an association. But what's the?
I think, I agree with you too, because we have the responsibility of it, you know.
I want to select a board member to participate.
Or I can just put all your names in a box and just draw one out and call you.
I would like
However you want
to,
to
if
do-
the commission agrees, I would like, since I sat in on it before when it was set up, I would like to go over it again to see where we done wrong, or if we did do wrong.
There's not anything, as you know.
Mhm.
A lot
I
of
would-
what's wrong with that
I'd
exam,
like
they
to-
don't study.
I would like to nominate Minnie as our representative from the board.
Second,
Second that.
Third,
third it, fourth it.
fifth.
I appreciate that.
All right, do we need to take a vote on that? It wouldn't hurt to take a vote on that. Who made the motion? Walt Valentine, second.
I
David
seconded.
Brown.
Vice Chair, you might want to call.
Okay.
All those in favor, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, please say no. Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, now we come to the Exhibit F. It's a budget review. I'm going to take a few minutes, if you don't mind, since we do have, it's F, since we do have 1, 2, Mr. Flair be 3, 4, about 4 new members that have not been through a budget review with us. I'm going to take a few minutes and explain all programs must be self-sufficient. If you're not self-sufficient for 3 years, then we must go to the Hill and meet with the committee to explain why you're not self-sufficient, and it's a sunshine, and program could be terminated. Every July 1 to June of the following year is your fiscal year. Every July 1, I have to start over this program with a 0 balance. But you must be able to maintain yourself all through the year, and of course anything that extra comes up. For instance, we are moving forward with our computer system. We're kind of excited about that because we're finding out now that we're going to be able to, from what I've been instructed, to have our own equipment, our own printers, whatever we need in our file room, that we can produce our own cards that will look completely different what you have. We're trying to determine whether we put the hologram, is that what it's called? That makes that. We're just looking at all type of cards that we can use, because your descriptions, I believe, is on the back. Yeah, so you have a 2-sided card that's a little bit different from the other programs. We're talking about scanners. Well, you have to pay for that. The program has to pay for that. So that's why I try to do a little workup for you. Now, the figures I'm going to give you are not your final totals. This is just the year end, and I get 3 more of these till the final comes out. But I'm just going to give you a preliminary on it. So if you would look, not the first sheet, which is expenditures, a big long one. The second sheet is the revenue for polygraph examiners and private investigators all together. Your programs are together. So the revenue and expenditures go together. Your revenue, as it stands right now, is $198,516.48. And when I do the figures, I just throw the 48 cents out. That's the revenue that you've taken in. That figure's not going to change very much. The next one that's in front of it is your expenditure sheets. If you've got that part up, look at the beginning of it, and it calls it on the very left, it says work plan. What I have to do in the office is sit down with your budget, and I budget every year 3 years in advance. Well, that's what I've said that we're going to spend to that side. I missed it probably a good little bit. Where you look at it, it's missed a good little bit. But what's not included, if you take the total over to the right, under the year-to-date total, it says your expenditures are $134,627.02. So you take your revenue, subtract your expenditures, but the one thing that's not in here is your costbacks, which I have no control over, and I don't know what they're going to be. For your new members, your costbacks is your attorney fees, the litigator fees, formal hearing fees, anything that's out of the ordinary, operating fees for administration. We do pay a portion for, of course, the Assistant Commissioner's Office, who does, we report to, the Commissioner's Office, whatever the fees come down, and those are called costbacks. So what I did, I took your revenue, subtracted your expenditures, and used last year's costbacks of $57,283, and that leaves you a balance of $6,706. That is not going to pay for your share of a computer system. What I'm trying to say is you probably, in the next year or two, as these fees come in, these charges for all this info, it'll be divided between our programs or whatever, you could be in a negative balance. We cannot allow that to happen for 3 years, or else we will go to the Hill for the Sunshine Committee. It was a few years, I think it was even before the Attorney Kilgore's time, that I did ask about raising fees, because I knew some of this was coming down. $6,000, I mean, we're cutting it pretty close without costbacks, and that's with only, I did adjust the salaries. Tony Kerr, who's sitting in the back of the room, she is now your only individual who's coming out of that program. Well, you know, Josh does that work. I work on it. Beth works on it. We all do a portion in the office. I mean, my switchboard operator answers your calls. She helps these people when they come in and gives them packets. So there's really more expenses than what you're seeing on these sheets. But when I did ask for that, I did ask for an increase in your renewals instead of we try to be competitive with other states as well. You don't want to be higher than others. And so we took a look at the renewals. I'm not suggesting we do that now. I'm just throwing it out in case there is a possibility that we may have to look at fees. The governor does not want to do fees for anybody, I can tell you. They don't want me to do anything on the Hill to increase fees. Unless I can sit down and say, look, we're going to be in the red, because I have to do your budget now for the next 3 years, what I have to anticipate doing. So I'm just throwing it out and giving you an idea of what we have so far. What did I say, like $6,700 before the cost back? I mean, I don't know what the cost backs are going to be this year.
Wait a second. Are you saying that we need to raise our fees? That's what I hear you say.
It may be a possibility.
But why not, let's just consider raising our fees? I mean, gas is going up, everything's going up. Why should we be worried about that?
Well, I'm sure the Hill doesn't want us to consider raising fees if we don't have to. If we can stay in the black, we're not here to make money. If you have $2 at the end of your fiscal year, that's fine. You've stayed within your operating budget. But technology is changing and things are happening. This happens it's going to be probably this year, next year, and the following year that fees are going to have to be paid for these computer systems.
So why don't we raise fees? Just that simple. In my mind, it's that simple.
It's not that easy, Commissioner Horton.
Okay.
It's just not that easy. Let's wait. Let's take a look at what our cost backs are. Let's take a look at what your balance is going to be at the end of the year for the next meeting. And it may be something that we might need to address. Beth and I have sat down. We don't have that in this packet. I don't think it is anyway. Your program has historically stayed pretty even. You would lose a few, but they would renew. Other people would renew. But it looks to us like not as many people are getting into the industry.
And a lot of people are not renewing their licenses.
So we're getting this little lull in there. So,
Is it possible to see what the other states are charging for renewals?
oh, yes.
Before next meeting, maybe we can sit down and look at it.
Mm-hmm. I would have to do all that to do a preliminary workup anyway, Commissioner Brown. We would do that. We take the states that circle Tennessee and try to be competitive. Well, look at what they have and everything. I don't want to alarm you. I'm not telling you we need to raise fees today. I'm just saying there may be a possibility of that if we get any lower in our income, or we lose any more people.
Tell us what the cost backs are again. You said something about attorneys.
Well, the cost backs cover quite a few things. Yes, sir. Cost back is the attorney fees, your formal hearing, Ms. Ryan, the investigations, administrative fees. Yes, sir. That's what those fees. That's called a cost back.
I'm trying to understand what you mean by attorney fees. Are you talking about his fee?
Yes. And the Department of Attorneys. Robin Ryan, whenever she works on your cases, we have to pay for that. She does a formal hearing, you pay for that. You pay for the judge, you pay for the court reporter.
Last year was how much? 50-something thousand?
Last year, the cost backs were $57,283. That left a total of $6,706. That's fine. You're in the black if the cost backs aren't too much more than that.
I have a question, Madam Director. You address this once a year in July, each year, projected for the following 3 years.
3 years, yes, sir.
So your projection year before last and last year to now, it's progressively getting to the point of where we may need to do something.
Yes, sir.
Am I interpreting what we're saying today is that we're okay right now, but you failed to make us aware that possibly next July, if not before, we may have to address the renewal fees?
Yes and no. No, if the cost backs come back greater than this 57,000, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 62,000, whatever it would be, add a little bit more to that. I would have to come back probably at the next meeting and say we have a problem.
So why don't we, that's why I'm having a hard time thinking about, if we recognize we're going to have a problem, why don't we address it now and not have to worry about it anymore? Am I missing? I guess I'm just missing something.
No,
here.
you're not missing anything. This is something that's very hard to do. I did this several years ago, and it just didn't go anywhere. I tried to say, I've looked at this for 3 years. I projected it out for 6 years, then it went to 9 years, and I have to look at how many people are coming in, how many you're losing, but you were starting to stay pretty even there. The budget wasn't a problem, but you're not taking in that many new private investigators, and the investigators you have are not renewing as much as they did. So right now, I cannot asked you to raise fees because you have money.
Are we concerned that if we do raise them, we may lose more people? They may drop out because of the fee and not renew?
But that's a possibility, and when Commissioner Brown said to check the other states, I'll come back with those figures to you and see if we are rated at the same level as other states, or we just look at other states. You do what you want to do in your own state, of course, but
I doubt there are any states out there that renew for $100 for a 2-year license.
Secretary of Finance.
That's why I tried to, when I did address it, I addressed the renewals, not the new people coming in. These people are starting their own business. They're just not, I'd assume you don't have a lot of money when you're starting your own business. Don't want the fees too high. Polygraph's kind of high. We did reduce that from 1,000 to 500. So we reduced
Their
it to-
renewal fee's 100, their application fee's only 50. Their renewal fee's 100, like the PI.
Okay.
So if we
Yeah, we
just across
changed
the
it.
board raise the renewal fee and not an extravagant amount, it might solve the problem. We have to kind of crunch.
But I have to sit down and look at that. And
Madam Director, if I understood you correctly, we won't have a problem unless we end the fiscal year in the red.
correct.
Then we got a red flag. We got to start getting religion and doing something about it.
Yes, sir.
But not until then.
Right. Got 3 years. It's the sunset is a sunset is a 3-year program.
Have we
You
ever?
might be in the black one year, you might be in the red the next year, but as long as you kind of equal yourself out, there's no possibility of the commission being eliminated.
Do you have a recollection of how many times we've ended a year in the red?
I don't believe you've ever ended in the red.
I didn't remember
But
any,
it's been,
but if we do,
you've
then
been so close.
You've been so close.
I don't know. You know, we have really, and
Well-
this is pretty close. If you stop to think of $6,000, all you have, 6,700, and then I still may have some adjustments of cost back, we're coming pretty close.
we have several months before the fiscal year ends, plus the fact that if
But
we
the
do end
physical
in the.
year is already ended.
just
It
don't
ended
have all
in
the
June.
final
I just don't
results
have,
yet.
this is just the preliminary they
Okay,
give
I
me.
understand. You don't have all the information from the
Correct.
last fiscal year, okay. Well,
I
I'm
just don't want
remembering
you to be
one year,
shocked.
I'm remembering one year, we had a surplus, and one of our commissioners took exception to the fact that it got rolled into the general fund. And so, but if we do end in the red, and we need to do something about it, then at that time we'd need to address it. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, because we'd have the whole year to get a rulemaking hearing into place if it need be.
Is that when one of our nice commissioners tried to recommend a raise for our staff?
No, I think that was the year that that commissioner wanted to abolish the commission. That was the individual.
Oh, okay.
Recall that.
That's been a while.
So that wasn't
so
me.
it's been a while.
So that wasn't me I was talking
No,
about.
it
just
wasn't you. No, sir, it
But
wasn't
I know
you. Yes,
I
Mr.
recommended it one time y'all get a raise and then you turned it down. And
Well,
we
you
had
kids,
and-
you
and
can't
we had-
afford to give us a raise, but that was a nice thought. Thank you.
2 questions.
Yes,
Number
sir.
one, how many PIs do we have in Tennessee now that are licensed?
I think it's right at 1,059.
Yeah, right at
Okay.
1,062, something other right in that area.
And-
Just a little over
Yesterday, it's
1,000.
a little
Okay,
over 1,000.
and what is the cost of the new computer to,
I don't have those figures to give you.
okay, and will that cost be shared with other commissions?
It will be shared with all the regulatory boards.
Okay.
There's like 26, I think there's 26. But it's going to hit us because we have 4 programs, and each one of our programs require a photo ID. We're going to be different. We're going to have different equipment than what other programs are going to have. It's my understanding now, if you go out to the Department of Safety, they don't give you your license. They mail it to you. Remember, you used to be able to go out there, you took your picture, and they produced a card, a nice looking card compared to what we had, you know.
Hard to punch a hole in it, I believe.
They do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, but they mail you.
They mail you.
You got something to drive on, but they'll mail you.
Right,
Yeah.
okay. And we're going to have the equipment, like I said, to produce our own card, to do our own scanning. We'll be stuffing the envelope. We're going to be doing supposedly everything in our office. I do not have those figures. There will be a lump figure for the computer system, and then they're going to sit down and then they're going to break out what our portion is going to be, because nobody else in this realm of the regulatory boards are going to have what we have. we're just excited to be able to not have to push a button. The computer has to back up. It has to print to another facility. They do whatever they do. It's carried over here to the building. They have to do whatever they do, and then we get it. Well, you're talking about a 2 or 3 day time span before we ever get your card back. We're going to be able to push the button today. It's going to be able to back up and print tonight, and we're going to have your card in hand and ready to shove in an envelope. It's just that exciting. We do have some new rules. I need to remind you, it's not in this program, but all commission members, all private investigators, if you want to be notified of what's going on within the state, which this is part of it, you must sign up for Verify.
No.
What is it?
Notify.
Notify, excuse me. Notify, if you haven't already done that. Notify.tn.gov. And
Well, actually, I'll go ahead and send y'all a link again after the meeting. It'll probably be Monday. So you can just go to our website and click on Notify, I want to sign up, and you pick the programs you want notices about. You can pick private protective, PIs, alarms, real estate. And if there is a notice, like a rulemaking hearing or a fee increase, you will get a notice by email that just says, here's some pending information. So,
let me say, our alarm board, we're in the midst of having a rulemaking hearing. Years ago, even with your program, not years ago, but several years ago, we used to do mass mailings to every licensee so they would know what was going on. This is for the private investigators as well. You will not be receiving a mass mailing. If you have not signed up to get this electronically, you will not know what's going on. Hopefully your associations will get out there and tell anybody that needs it when they have their meetings to make sure that they sign up as well. I didn't really mean to get into such a conversation.
The only problem with the associations is that very few of the PIs actually belong to them.
Belong to these, you're right. We're aware of that. We do hope that private investigators all have computers or some way to get this information, because you will not be getting it.
how many of y'all have gotten a renewal application in the mail lately? There's a card in there that says sign up for Notify. Every licensee has sent a card saying, hey, sign up for this with their renewal applications.
How many of you renewed online? Have you renewed your PI or your company online yet?
You can.
When did this go into effect?
Well, I always had somebody do that for me, though. I don't know if I did or not.
Okay, but that's technology. All our programs, except for one, our alarm board, and we're working on that with rules, you can now renew online. We want you to renew online. We don't want to have to rely on that paperwork coming in, but the problem that you have, like the other ones, you have to send us photos. You don't have to do that. Send it to us by email. We can print it. We've got a color printer. We can do that. It's your continuing education, and it comes in a different form, too, from
Or you can mail your pictures and copies of your continuing ed certificates and still pay online.
Yes.
I have signed up for the Notify, though.
Very good, Commissioner Brown. I appreciate that. But, I mean,
Beth
technology's moving, and so we need to be moving with it, and we're really excited about the renewal online because we can get it done so much quicker. A lot of people don't understand, when you put your renewal in the mail, and this is for our new commission members and for our audience, you put your renewal in the mail, you put it in U.S. mail. It has to hit the state postal. That's not this building. That's another building. It has to be processed if they're all working that. I mean, there's the humans up there working. And then it has to be divided out into these buildings. Then it's delivered to us. It's not delivered to me, to my staff. It's delivered to the mailroom. They have to divide it out, separate it, and then it gets put into lock boxes that we come in to twice a day to open. Well, technically, if you got a holiday there, it could take 10 days for me to get it. And for some reason, even though you are notified in advance of your renewal, we always get a lot of them the day before or the day of, so we have to watch your postmark. If you go out online, if you do it before 11:30, 11:45, it records it as that day. So anything after that, it runs over to the next day. I don't know how many people up at 11:45 to do a renewal, but there are quite a few that get done. So, I mean, technology is there. We have to pay for that. Is what
Unarmed
it's going
guards and we've been really surprised at the volume of unarmed guards that are renewing online. That was the one program we thought really wouldn't, and they go online, pay their fee, get their license 3 days later.
We have security guard companies in East Tennessee that don't even have fax machines.
Don't have email.
Don't have email. I mean, there's still these kind of, and these people are renewing online.
Are they still working?
Yes, they can still work. They just do everything by mail. But they started renewing online. If you want to reach the commission, the best thing to do is send us an email. We do answer the telephone, but I have instructed our staff we don't need to answer it. It's maybe specific times during the day. I mean, you sit at your desk, you answer it, but this program's not that difficult, that many. You take the security guards. I mean, by the time you don't answer your phone from the time you come in to the time you go to lunch at 12 o'clock, you got 80 phone calls. You can't humanly possibly do that. When I talk to private investigators, I tell them, if you got a problem, you want to know something, send us an email, because we can respond to an email so much quicker. Of course, it's just, here's your question, and I just give it to you.
Okay.
You know, give you the
Oh,
answer.
excellent to help us.
Well, thank you. We appreciate that. Okay, any other questions on that? I will be getting back with you on it, on the budget, or anything else that we need on that. Okay, let's budget review. Didn't mean to elaborate on that, but let's go to, the next thing is legislative updates. Some of this doesn't maybe necessarily pertain to you, but we do try to keep you informed of what's going on with legislation. And this first one is G1, Public Chapter 815, Restoration of Rights. Of course, this has to do with a criminal record. But what I was looking at, if you turn to page 2, and down at the bottom, you have, what is that, JK? Is that an L? L, M, LM, go down to M, which is the end of page 2. If a person presents a valid certificate of employability, no board, agency, commission, or other licensing entity that issues, restores, or renews licenses or certificates and regulates occupation and trades for which a license or certificate is required to do business in this state shall deny the issuance, restoration, or renewal of the occupational license or certified board solely, da-da-da-da. That's the part I found rather interesting, but it does say that we will take that on the renewal or the issuance on a case-by-case basis. I just wanted you to see some private investigators might ask you about that legislation. The next one is apprenticeships. I'm just going to take a minute to discuss that a little bit because you have an apprenticeship. All the commissions and boards have been notified by this that we're to sit down and try to develop an apprenticeship for each program to help people get into the industry. Well, you already have that program, and that's what I simply said. I said, Private Investigation and Polygraph Commission has an apprenticeship, and then I listed how they do the apprenticeship.
Polygraph has an intern.
Yeah, thank you, Beth. Polygraph has an internship instead of an apprenticeship. So there are ways for people to get into this industry, but I can tell you I get call after call after call from individuals that says nobody will put me in their apprenticeship. How do I get this experience if I don't get in I don't have the 2,000 hours to start my own company or whatever? How do I get this experience as a private investigator if they won't let me in their as an apprentice? I don't know the answer to that.
Well, most of us don't want to be bothered with them because they don't know anything. They can't help us.
Well, that's what this is supposed to do, this legislation. That's what this legislation wants you to do. It wants you to help the individual get into your profession.
Not going to happen.
Well, it already has. Right. So, I mean, that's.
They can legislate all they want to, but I'm not going to hire anybody like that doesn't know what they're doing. You know,
But how is somebody going to get into your profession then?
get their 2,000 hours somewhere else.
From Dr. Rich?
I don't think he's going to do that either.
Well, I agree, because there's liability issues, and most of these people that are new in the field and want to become private investigators, they don't have any more to put them on your license, and then your insurance is very expensive. And I agree with Walt.
Well, I'm not going to dispute that whatsoever. I may have to explain that later to somebody, but you do have an apprenticeship program. So I said, no, I don't need to do anything about this, because you have the program to let other people train, for you to train people to come into your industry. Now, what you do with your company, that's Commissioner Valentine, that's your business. I understand that. I just wanted to explain to you the telephone calls that I get. I want to get into the business. I've got college, I've got this, I've got that. I would make a good private investigator, I think, whatever. Who would you suggest that I would call that would take me on as an apprentice? If you'd like to get with me later and you may let me know that you would do that, we'd be glad to give this information to anyone who called us. Moving right on. That one went over. Okay, how about the Exhibit G3, voice stress analysis? Everything that we're giving you today is already passed, and it is law. The one thing I really found interesting about this one, Public Chapter number 928, it's amended by, let's see, Chapter 17 is amended by adding the following as a new section. B, voice stress analysis and testimony regarding voice stress analysis shall not be admissible as evidence in any criminal proceeding. What do you use voice stress? I don't know whoever. I don't know what this is.
The local department here in Nashville, PD, they've got trained people, supposedly, that says that they can tell whether you're being truthful through your voice. Polygraph examiner on board here, one of the commissioners, I don't know his opinion. My opinion, I don't think it, as a 40-year experienced law enforcement officer, I don't believe in them. I believe very strongly in the polygraph test, provided the individual that's giving the test is a qualified polygrapher. Again, he can probably address it much better than I.
All the research that's been conducted so far, or most of it, shows that the voice stress has got an accuracy rate of about 50%. It's like flipping a coin. But a lot of police departments go with it because it's cheaper. It's cheaper than sending a polygraph examiner to a school. And, for example, the Department of Defense Polygraph Institute takes 3.5 months. As you can go to a voice stress school for 2 or 3 weeks.
And on top of that, in my opinion, as an investigator, the polygraph, as we all know, is not permissible, but it's an extremely valuable tool as an investigator in law enforcement. And I think it's also very valuable in loss of theft in a corporation. I do some of that in my business. But again, I'm in agreement. I didn't even think it was 50%. I thought it was much lower than that. And I do know some of the examiners that are qualified to do that, Madam Director, but on the side, over a cup of coffee, they're going to say it's like flipping a coin, that they use it more of a tool than, to actually gain the truth. Is that not your feeling too, Commissioner? Yes.
As a caveat, at one of our seminars I went to in the last, say, 3 or 4 years, they said they can tell you more about the person's eyes than anything else. Which way the eyes blink, or where they look to the left or the right. So who do you believe?
I guess it depends whether I wear a red shoe or a blue shoe.
Yeah.
Well,
because mine blink all the time.
The pupils of your eye is an involuntary response. You can't control it. What he said is absolutely true. I can look in your eyes and tell if you're lying to me.
Well, see, I'm going to turn my This will be something.
Close your eyes, you can't see it.
Yeah, just talk to us with your eyes closed.
No, that's absolutely,
anyway.
that's absolutely foolproof. It's
Yeah.
been around for centuries. That's why when your mother said, "Look me in the eye,"
Oh, that's
she was a professional psychologist and didn't know it.
There you go. All right.
Does that conclude what you have?
That will conclude that part of yes, of my administrative matters. Is Mr. Crumble?
About a 10-minute break. Is
That'll
everybody
be
in
fine,
agreement with
uh-huh.
that? 10-minute break.
As long as we're in time for lunch, that's all I care about.
We're on.
9 minute 57
We're
seconds.
on
You
time.
want us for lunch?
Yeah.
It was 928.
That's the thing, I grew up, that was North Nashville. I had friends that lived on the trial around, lived over.
I'll turn the meeting back over to our Executive Director, Cody Vess.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We're going to move on to Exhibit H, which is for an appeal for a denied application. Craig Crumball, are you with us? Yes. Would you please come up and sign in, please? Okay. And then you may have a seat over there if you'd like. We need to get you by the mic. This is Exhibit H, so if you would take a few minutes to look this over, I'm going to give you a little update while Mr. Crumball's signing in here. First thing I take it that you'll see is the question number 7 that's on the application and talks about the criminal history and what you have to do. Do you see that? And down there it has what he failed to disclose, the years that, everybody see that on their iPad? Okay. The next thing that you have is the letter to appear. This is the one we send out saying that you can appear. The one behind that is a written request for him to appear. Copy of a driver's license and the state of Georgia license. You will also see the denial letter. And you will see the page of the application where it asks about the criminal record. Have you been charged or been places against you in Tennessee or any other state? Those are the criminal history questions that we ask. Then you will see the 2009 renewal and the 2011 renewal that each one of them say no, have never been arrested. I'll give you a few minutes to look that over.
I'm going to recuse myself from talking about this or any discussions or votes on this matter. I'll explain later after the vote's taken.
No explanation needed.
Well, this is the first time that they've had a chance to look at this, so if you give them a few minutes. While you're reading that, I'll give you a little background on that. On June the 17th of 2014, we reviewed the application and I denied the application. The application was denied for 6226-217A3. No on the application. Said no on all the renewals. Had never been arrested. We called that a material misstatement. Right to appeal. He did request the appeal. I'm not really sure about some of the statements made in the appeal letter. You can look that over yourself. I've explained this numerous occasions, but let me explain since we have new commission members. We are the same or treated the same as law enforcement. We will see everything that law enforcement can see on your record. Of course, we don't consider juvenile. We do see it on occasion, and I'll contact the TBI, tell them the filters fell off, and put it back on so I can't see it because we're not interested in that. And there's nothing in our statute that says anything over 10 years, 7 years, 20 years, 50 years that we don't take in consideration. Nothing in your statute. That's why I denied it material misstatement. There's no time frame. Then you have that letter to appear. We did best work this up to give you the question number 7. It answered no to have you ever been arrested. There's your information, criminal history information. We also explained if you get a DUI, what that constitutes. We also put on there if you have an expungement, what you're supposed to. We've tried to spell out what you need to do if you have been arrested or what might constitute an arrest. And then if you answer yes to any of these questions, you provide us with the documentary dispositions and any court documents, whatever that we might need. We asked that question of Mr. Crumpo, he said no. And he said no on the renewal is for 2 years. You have your 9 and the have any questions for Mr. Crumbaugh? That's why he's here. He's asked to appear before the board.
Everybody ready? Mr. Crumbaugh, is there something you'd like to say to us before we ask you any questions? go to the courts and try to get any type of paperwork or anything?
No, I need to go on this one in the middle and get some paperwork.
Have any questions, commissioners?
Let me, like I said, I keep interrupting, I'm sorry. We got new commission members, and I don't really know what part they know and they don't know. I denied Mr. Crumball, that's why he is before you. If you deny him, he must wait 6 months to reapply. And when he reapplies, he will have to answer these questions correctly and submit all the documentation that goes with it before it'll be approved. And then there's another problem here. Statute says that you're to notify us of an arrest, and the gentleman did not. So I spoke with the staff attorney, and a complaint probably will be established for that. Yes, sir.
Do you currently hold a Georgia PI license? Well, what did you indicate on their forms? Did you tell them about these arrests?
Well, apparently you didn't, or they would have probably challenged them like we would.
Must have misunderstood you. I thought you said you had your application from Georgia, but you did not have Tennessee.
Which the original one would only indicate this one here because it's the only one that has.
1982 one.
His question was, did you?
On the 2009 one, as far as being arrested.
Did you notify their commission?
No, I didn't notify anybody, but I wasn't even active.
But you held the license.
Keep renewing it, you know, just keep my license renewed. And, you know, I didn't use it.
Held the license.
Yeah.
But you held the license.
Yes, that is true.
Did you notify anybody on the 2013 arrest?
No, I haven't had a license.
Georgia?
I didn't have a license at that time.
Did your father have
I didn't have a license under any state at that 2000.
But did your father have a business, a PI business?
He has a PI business.
What else does he do? That's all he does? Okay.
Mr. Crumball does hold an active Georgia license that expires on 8/31/15. And what he was doing is he's reapplying because he let his license lapse. We showed you the renewals, that 11, 12, 13. He did not renew, so he is actually making application again for you.
Crumball, I have a question. You said you did not disclose this arrest on June of 2013. You didn't notify anybody.
Right.
But you had a license at that time which says here it expired in November of that year. So you were required. This paperwork that I'm looking says you held a Tennessee PI license at that time, which expired in November.
No, I don't think I've had a Tennessee license since.
What I'm looking at on page 2 said you had a license and it expired in November of 2013. But this arrest took place in June.
I know the child support people were after me because I was behind on my child support.
But are you saying to me that in November of 2013 you did not have a PI license in Tennessee?
Shouldn't have.
The staff is saying that you did.
He did it in 2011, so it would have expired November 30th, 2013.
Right, but I think it was turned in prior to it expiring. You know, I mean, I wasn't. Child support people had said that I couldn't have a good
Madam Chairman, I have a question. Sir, you are explaining to us that you're under the impression your dad turned your license in prior to the 13 charge. Even though the license may have been turned in, our records, according to the board, according to the office, I understand that it didn't expire or wouldn't be not valid until November of 13. But you're explaining to us that you were under the impression that they had been turned in, so you weren't licensed properly, so therefore you didn't notify anybody about it. Is that pretty much what you're saying?
Why would your dad turn them in and not you, since it's an individual license? I understand maybe you work for him.
And he just sent them in. I don't.
State your full name for the record, please. And
Carl Frederick Crumbaugh.
thank you.
My agency is 42 years old, okay? And I'm one of the original PI licensed persons in Tennessee. Bob Dawson can vouch for that, I believe. The issue in question was when he applied for license in 2011, not 2013, Mark advised us back they wouldn't issue the license because of the child support issue. We never received a license for to allow him to work in 2011, okay, through 2000. And therefore, he didn't have one in 2013. He put in one in 2013, yeah. Or 2014, yeah.
He reapplied.
Mike can help clarify some of that. He held an active license for as the office is concerned, and he had an expiration date, I think, what was November of 13? All right. He was put in suspended status because of child support, I believe is what it is. But he still had a license through this commission that he must notify us of any changes. He did not physically get the card. You don't get your card. Remember I showed you that long list of all those people that got suspended? Well, they still get approved. You still have to go through the renewal process. You send everything in, but you do not get approved until you get released from child support or student loans. When you get released, then we send you the card. But you still must abide by all the rules and regulations of the commission at that time. He's right, he didn't get the card, but he was still active/suspended due to child support.
And yet he can't, I can't allow him to work.
What was the last date that he worked for you?
Huh?
What was the last date he worked for you on any cases?
Oh, I don't know. That's, you know, it hadn't been any time recent, that's for sure. But what I'm saying is in 2000, when we're talking about the child support, they would refuse to issue a license. So I say, Craig, you're off. You can't work anymore. And that's it. And as far as I'm concerned, we don't have any proof that he had a license. I did not receive any proof. In fact, we received a statement of the fact he did not have a license. They wouldn't granting a license. That's what the statement said. Therefore, he couldn't work in the field, or I couldn't work under my agency in the field because he didn't have a license.
As to his individual license, the paperwork would go to him, notification, correct? It would go to the company?
All correspondence for private investigators go to the company that you're affiliated with. That's the address that's on there. But really the question is this new application. He made new application. He's correct. He didn't have a license. We're saying it was active because that's the way child support does that. But now it has expired and he's making a new application. He did not respond to the questions on the application.
That's the issue here.
That's the issue to me.
If we move to not approve his application now, then he has 6 months to reapply, is that correct? and
Oh,
then
sir,
submit
he-
correct paperwork.
Well, he has to wait 6
Wait
months.
6 months and
At
then
the end of that
reapply.
6 months, he reapplies, yes, sir, and he answers the questions correctly and gives us all the documentation for those charges. Yes, sir.
Any further discussion or questions? Is there a motion?
I move that it not be accepted at this time.
Motion by
I'll
Commissioner
second it.
Richards to deny the application,
And I'll
second by
second.
Commissioner Flair. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Approve? Oppose? Motion carried.
All right, Mr. Moore, is I on your application? First thing you probably should be able to see is the application for license. It tells you about the offenses. We're trying to do this with new commissioner, and sorry I keep saying that. I just want to make sure that they're familiar with this. You're going to see the appeal letter that was sent in. You see the page of the application where this gentleman said, yes, I have been arrested. And it lists that down, and he lists what it is. You also see the documentation from the General Sessions Court of Sumner County. And he did provide us with a written explanation. And he does have character references. Did you just have a seat there, sir? This is the first time they've seen this, so just give them a few minutes to look through it.
Madam Chairman, if I may,
Go ahead,
I'm going to
Commissioner
have
Flair.
I need to excuse myself from this. I know this individual.
That's
and-
fine. You're excused.
Okay.
Is there anything that you would like to say to us?
Did you read the written statement?
Yes, we just now got it. That's what took us some time.
That pretty much explains everything. It's all on articulation, guys. As it's told to the
There a motion?
I'd like to move that we accept his application and his explanation.
Second.
Have a motion by Commissioner Russo to accept.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Brown. Any other discussion or questions?
Yes, how long were you on the Goodlettsville Police Department?
Law enforcement probably
Had to resign because of this arrest.
no idea what I've had to guess. It's been a horrible day.
Other
You've
discussion?
got, I'm sorry, go ahead.
You go right ahead, Commissioner Richards.
You've got all sorts of glowing recommendations from the chief of police and all that sort of thing. Why did you have to resign?
I'm not going to sit here and talk bad about anybody. Had new administration come in.
Questions? We have a motion and a second for acceptance. If there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Good luck to you, Mr. Moore.
Yes, ma'am, thanks for your time. If I may, where do I proceed?
But as an apprentice,
Yes, ma'am.
so we will more than likely go ahead and issue
He's
your
gonna be an
apprentice permit. If you go ahead and take the test, we already have your background check.
Okay.
You really could get your full 2-year license as soon as we get your exam score.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, it'll go to the company.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thanks again.
Good.
Where we? The next one is Robert Duhane, certified trainer application. Is what this is. Look this over because you do have the application.
Exhibit J.
Yes, ma'am, Jay. He is a licensed private investigator. You have his company company license in there, along with his resume. Proof that he was with the Vermont Police Department from '96 to '83.
That doesn't make sense. Oh, 66,
66.
sorry.
Did I say, I might have said something.
You
when I
said-
Sorry. 1966 until 1983, and then the degree. There's his degree there.
Our second application ever for a trainer. Active trainer. And that's Mr. Bain up in Knoxville, and this will be our second
Stuart Bain.
certified trainer. If y'all. The requirements, I put the requirements in the very back of your packet just so you could see what was required since we review so few of these. He's been doing some continuing education training. Some of y'all may have seen some of his accident reconstruction seminars.
And reviewed this. Is there a motion?
Move we approve his application as a trainer.
Motion by Commissioner Valentine to approve, second by Commissioner Russo. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries.
Oh, good. That's going to end that portion, Madam Chair.
Okay, we have next on the agenda the education review, and I'll turn that over to Beth Smith-Bell, our administrative assistant.
Earlier this morning, and I think almost the entire commission was present for the education committee meeting, and that was unusual, but it was a pleasant. It was good because y'all got to kind of get an idea of what the committee members have to look at. We had a large number of courses meeting quarterly now. I think we're going to have more courses, but we had an unusually large amount. I'm going to read these into the record. The recommendation was to approve these. James Robert Goodman wants to use Training Force USA. It was an 8-hour class on investigating using social media and the internet. The recommendation was to approve. Don Keith Jeffers attended an office of the U.S. Attorney Eastern District and Tennessee Association of Chiefs of Police. It was a 2014 Characteristics of Armed Persons and ATF Firearms. There were 2 portions of it. It was a total of 18 hours. Frankie G. Lackey attended the State of Alabama Workers' Compensation Division training. He had 2 seminars, 8 hours each, one in 2013, one in 2014. Michael D. Mathis attended the FBI National Academy Associate Summer Training Conference. It was a 15-hour class in June of 2014. Lloyd Allen Phelps attended the Mid-South Cargo Security Council that was held in South Haven, Mississippi. Their 2014 Cargo and Major Theft Seminar. It was a 12-hour seminar. Brian Ray Scott attended Michelle Stewart Eagle Eye Investigations Group seminar. It was an 8-hour seminar in September. Actually, that one's upcoming. Lee Smith attended the Mountain Tracker Association. He went to basic tracker training in September of 2013 and advanced tracker in May of 2014. Thomas Eric Watson went to the University of Tennessee Law Enforcement Innovation Center. He took their leadership and supervision course in January 2013. It was 24 hours of training. Organizations that have submitted for approval. We got a request from the Florida Association of Private Investigators for their 2014 annual conference in September of this year. And they asked to be added to the list of recognized organizations. G4S Compliance and Investigations has sent in a whole list of online training that they offer to their investigators. Annual fraud awareness, auto theft, arson, and rate evasion, California unfair claims practices, conducting ethical investigations, conducting interviews, conducting surveillance investigations, introduction to fraud, insurance basics for investigators, preparing for deposition or trial, suspicious activity reporting, and terrorism awareness. Those were mostly 2-hour courses. There's one 4-hour. That was recommended for approval. The North Carolina Association of Private Investigators has requested approval for their 2014 Fall Training Conference in November of this year. They also requested to be added to the list of recognized organizations. PICEU.com is one of our online providers. They've submitted 2 courses, Advanced Surveillance Techniques and Investigating Sex Crimes. They are 4-hour courses. The Learning Shop USA has submitted Arson Investigations. It's an 8-hour course. Expert Private Investigation, which is a 16-hour course. Professional Private Investigation course, which is 12 hours. And Undercover Operations, which is an 8-hour course. Those were recommended for approval. The Tennessee Association of Investigators has submitted their fall conference to be held in Germantown, Tennessee in October. And William Clifton and Peggy Booth are planning to offer free continuing education seminars in Knoxville. On October the 8th, they're going to do night vision and report writing for 3 hours, and on October 15th, they're going to do covert systems and process serving for 3 hours. The recommendation for these was to approve all of these, and we'll need a motion for that.
Motion by Commissioner Russo to
I'll second it.
Who would second it?
I'll second it. Larry Flair.
Larry Flair. Second by Commissioner Flair. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries to approve them all. We have next on the agenda unfinished business. Do we have any unfinished business? Let's move on then to new business, I believe.
Yes, we do have some new business,
Okay.
Madam Chair. Did you already pass
Would
this
you
on?
address that, please?
I laid some on the table and I gave a few to
If
the
you
board.
would, this was a handout. This is the ICER conference. This is the International Association of Security Investigative Regulatory. It is going to be held in Louisville, Kentucky, November the 12th through the 14th. Your attorney and myself will be attending this conference this year. Every program that we regulate is represented in this association. Last time they even had people from Saudi Arabia attend, so it's a big association here. If you look in the back, I'll get my fingers to work here. You have your page here for the conference. It's at the Galt House Hotel, Louisville, Kentucky. It's going to be in Kentucky, from what I understand, this year, North Carolina.
North Carolina
The next year, then the following year, they want Tennessee to host it, if at all possible.
We're thinking about retiring first.
Oh, yeah.
but-
A lot of work to one of these conferences. Okay, but Tennessee, so you know, was one of the founding states for this conference. We've already got it set up, I said, with the attorney and myself. Now you have here, you can join this. It tells you how much it is, or you can go as a non-member. Administration has approved us to attend, therefore, as private investigators, you may attend also.
And as board members, they can join as associate members. And it's not a very high fee to join as an associate member, as a board member, if you were interested in joining.
And you can also bring a guest with you that can attend the breakfasts, the open ceremonies, lunches. They don't attend the conference, but you can have a guest with you. We're really excited about going this year. Well, we were excited to go every year, but this is
We
the
haven't,
first year that we
the
have.
last time we went was like 2004, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was in Vancouver, British Columbia then. So they've been holding a lot of their conferences in Canada and in the Northwest. And it looks like for the next 2 to 3 years, they're going to be in the Southeast, so.
Did ask me about your budget, what we're going to do with that 6,100 or 7,700? Pay for this trip.
No, it'll only take about a third of that.
I know, I was just teasing.
For both of y'all.
Just teasing. That's all.
Can I go with you and spend some of that money?
Most certainly can, but you got to pay your own way.
Wear
I know it, I
sunglasses
know
where
it,
they
it's
can't
just
see
not
the
fair,
pupils
is
of
it?
your eyes.
It's just not fair. So some of my alarm members will also be attending the conference with us. Beth, and what was the other one? Kentucky?
Yes, I have one other item under new business. The Commonwealth of Kentucky, we still have a full reciprocal license agreement with them, but they have agreed to enter into the limited license recognition agreement with Tennessee. Their board chairman signed it on August the 7th. Your board chairman signed it today. As soon as I get this back to them, it'll be in effect. It's identical to the agreements we have with North Carolina, Georgia, Florida. It's a 15 days per agency per case. If you have a case that originates in Tennessee and you need to go into Kentucky to interview a witness or follow somebody on surveillance, you've got 15 days per agency per case, just like we do with the other states. We had sent this to them several times, but they have new board members and they've decided this isn't a bad idea. Now, Kentucky's law is a little different from ours. They have changed their law to allow for a sole proprietor individual licensee. He doesn't have to have a company. Anybody that has a Kentucky license is eligible for this agreement. But it will be in place more than likely by about the middle of next week. I will change the notice on our website. I also sent one to Alabama, and I haven't heard back from them yet. I expect by the time we meet again, we'll have an agreement with Alabama too, or one in place.
You send us an email on that when it is approved
When
in
I get the
Alabama?
memo updated, yeah, I'll send you a copy of this one when I add Kentucky, and I'll also send one when we get Alabama. More than likely, it'll have to be signed at a regular board meeting, so it probably, our next board meeting is November the 7th. Remember, we changed the date because of the ISR conference, which is the following week. If it comes in earlier than that, I may send it to Minnie and get her to sign it, if y'all don't have a problem with that. So that ends the new business as far as I'm aware.
Did anyone sign up for the continuing education participation forum? I could have a motion to adjourn this meeting, I believe.
I'll make that motion, Madam Chairman.
Motion was made by, who seconded that?
Oh, I do, if nobody else will.
Commissioner Flair made the motion, Commissioner Rich seconded it. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned.
Fred called me Monday night, left a voice message.